So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Westside Unitarian Universalist Church virtual service. My name is Linda Phippen. I'm a member of the Worship Committee and will be presenting today's Voices of the Congregation service. I use she, her pronouns. So whether you're a longtime Westside member or a friend or a newcomer, I think we have some of all, we are glad to see all of you here this morning. We will have coffee hour as usual, starting at about 11:30, depending on how long the service runs. Before I get started, there are a few announcements. Just as a reminder, the Share the Plate partner this quarter is the GLSEN. That's the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network, which works to ensure schools are a safe and affirming environment for LGBTQ youth. If you would like to make a donation to support this organization, you can visit the Westside website, click the Make a Donation button, and check Share the Plate. So adult religious exploration is going to be continuing on Thursday evenings from 6:30 to 8. That's a virtual meeting on Zoom. These meetings are standalone, so it's not in a series. So even if you've never been before, you're welcome to attend. And the next session is coming Thursday, the 20th. The discussion topic is going to be the book Dad's Journal, which is by Jennifer Sander. And this is a book that David Howell talked about at one of our outdoor services recently. So the Zoom link for the meeting is on the same page that the Westside on the Westside website, the same with all the links for the services and other activities. So next Sunday, we will be having the congregational meeting at which we will discuss the budget for the next fiscal year, as well as nominees for the Board of Trustees. This will be a virtual meeting via Zoom and will be in place of the regular coffee hour. So we won't be having a coffee hour next week. It's going to be the congregational meeting. If you are not able to attend the meeting but would like to vote on the budget and board nominees, you will need to designate someone to vote for you. And details on that process are on the information that was sent out to all the members last week. So if you're not a member, you're still welcome to attend this meeting and see how we make decisions about financial issues and leadership. However, only actual members are allowed to vote. And I'm sure you know by now, this is Canvas season. I'll pass on a few words that Suzanne mentioned at the service this morning, the outdoor service this morning. Looking at the budget that went out, we have not quite met the budget, the proposed budget with the pledges that have come in so far, but it's getting close. So if you haven't already pledged and would like to, please do so. As I said, she said she actually found a pledge envelope with a substantial pledge in it, actually taped to the front door of the church this morning. So pledges are still coming in. It's not too late. Does anybody else have any announcements they would like to make? Okay. I'm going to ask David Howell, who's sitting next to me, to sound the singing bowl this morning to help us gather our attention and help us settle our thoughts as we begin our service. And now I'm going to ask Dave to light the chalice while I read these words from George Kimmick Beach. In the mystery of life about us, there is light. It gives us a place to be, to grow, to rejoice together. It opens pathways to love. In this place of friendship, there is freedom. Let the light we kindle go before us, strong in hope, wide in goodwill, inviting the day to come. Now I think we have a music presentation.
We sing of golden mornings, we sing of sparkling seas, of prairies, valleys, mountains, and states.
On New Year's Day 2020, none of us had an inkling of what a remarkable year lay ahead. Sure, we knew it was a presidential election year that was likely to be contentious, maybe even tumultuous. And there was news seeping out that a new respiratory virus was circulating somewhere in China. But within a month, a case of what would come to be known as COVID-19 began occurring in the US, and the disease was spreading worldwide. On March 11th, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 to be a pandemic, and stay-at-home orders were issued in the US on March 19th. 2020 was to be a year like no other. Our lives were disrupted in almost every way: work, school, travel, family life, social life, spiritual life, everything. And on top of the fear, anxiety, and suffering induced by the disease, there was the death, now confirmed as murder, of George Floyd on May 25th, which was followed by weeks of protests, social unrest, and riots. And then there was the presidential election and its aftermath, which was like nothing anyone had experienced or even dreamt of before. And don't forget the murder hornets. Definitely a year like no other. But now things are starting to feel a bit better. Many Americans, particularly those most vulnerable to serious disease and death, have been vaccinated with highly effective vaccines. The number of cases is substantially declining in most states, and preventative restrictions are being eased. On other fronts, justice has been rendered in the death of George Floyd. As for politics, well, that remains a bit unsettled, perhaps even unsettling, but doesn't impinge on day-to-day life so much. I know I'm starting to feel more hopeful and looking forward to things that I haven't been able to do for the past year. And I think many of you must be thinking along those same lines. So today I've asked a few people to talk about what they are most looking forward to. I'm going to start off by asking Curtis Dush to speak. I did share her thoughts with the outdoor group as well. So Curtis, you want to join us?
Thanks. So I'm just going to read what I wrote. It'll keep me on track and not wandering. So I had to think a while about this question because there's so many things that came to mind. I want to see my children, my grandchildren, meet my new great grandson, meet my West Side friends in person. I want to return to Tuesday night jazz on the square, have drinks with friends, wander through the grocery store, get lost in an antique store. How do you know what to choose? You know, there's so much. And then the more I thought, you know, I do look forward to all of that more than I can even express in words. But what I really hope is that when things are winding down, it feels like we can start saying that. I hope that some sense of time returns. This last year has left me feeling like time has no meaning. I lose track of appointments. My sleep schedule is a mess. I feel like I've just filled the cat's bowl and it's empty. Time is just, there is no semblance of order for me. So I hope that though many things will not return to what we've known before, and I think in many cases that's a good thing, but I hope that we're able to return to some form of time continuum once things sort of start to settle.
Thank you, Curtis. Now I believe Art, you had something you would like to say.
Thank you. I may have misunderstood what Suzanne had asked of me. I thought it was goals for the church. If it's just very briefly, if it's in terms of personal goals, let me just say I feel the same way. The return to what will never be normal, it'll never be like it was. But it's already starting to with gatherings of our family on Sunday and nobody having to wear a mask, to seeing people not wearing masks and then you wondering, gee, they're not being very considerate of others and they're probably not taking their shots or anything such as that. I just want to see things not so restrictive, the guidelines. We've even gone back to see a movie in a theater. We've gone out to restaurant. We went to one restaurant rather. So that is in and of itself a shift back to normal, somewhat normal. And let me touch on, well, like I said, what I think Suzanne had initially asked me for were goals for the church. I haven't been very involved with the church in the last number of years, as some of you may already know that. There are people that come up on this that I don't even know because it's been that long since I've been there. And I've been very out of touch with what's happened with the church for the most point. But when it came to looking at goals for the church, what I did was I went back to the foundation of Unitarian Universalism in our 7 principles, and just briefly wanted to reflect on those. I won't go into any detail. And the first one, of course, is recognize the inherent worth and dignity of every person. When I was there and during coffee hour, and you would hear people say things about other people in the congregation that weren't necessarily very complimentary, are we, by doing that, how does that affect what the inherent worth and dignity of every person is? Somebody doesn't agree with me, I accept what they say. I may not like it, but I accept what they say. That is their point of view, and who am I to really judge how they feel? I am not in that position, not in the least, and want to make sure or strive to see that other people there that have an attitude of sorts try to feel that way as well. It's not something you can force on somebody, and some people will not change, and that's okay too. But to make sure that we offer the opportunity and present other aspects or opinions that might help them be non-judgmental. The second is justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. And that's in all human relations, regardless of what level that's in. You can, once again, you can disagree with what somebody is, what their personal habits are, their sexual orientation, and still maintain an acceptable human relationship with them. One of the things I'm very proud of to be a member, one of the things that make me proud to be a member of our congregation is acceptance across the board, that we don't not accept anybody. That's not only important for us and our own personal growth, but it's even more important for the children that are raised in that church. My son having been one of them, he was even named in our church. And he grew up with that knowledge and that base for which I hope he guides his life by. I know when he's getting married next year, one of what was traditionally groomsmen, and things have moved away from that. One of the people that is going to be a groom's person, or I can't remember what the term is for it, is a woman that is a lesbian. And he went to and participated in her wedding as well. And I'm delighted about that. That shows that what he learned from the people in our church made a difference to him. And that gives me a great deal of hope, and even more so for the children that are brought up in our church. And it gives me hope for the people in our church that may not see things that way. Probably taking longer than I needed to. And that's also part of acceptance of one another, encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregation. I would like to see more services that more directly address the different religions that comprise Unitarian Universalism. I think there's still a lot of misunderstandings, and some of haven't been enough to enough of Carol's services to be able to say that with respect to her. But in the past, I've always felt that specific religious topics were glanced over, except at the time of, let's say, for people that are Jewish or were raised in Jewish homes, for Passover and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that there are other times that can be discussed too, and not just about the times that have when such events occur. Free and responsible search for truth and meaning, which I think is well accomplished through the adult RE programs. I've been through a develop your own theology program. It was quite a few years ago, but I thought that was a very important thing, and I like to see that continue. Use of the democratic process within our congregation and society at large. I think we do have a democratic process in our church. I would like to see that continue. We also work towards the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. We do address that on a global level. I'd like to see it continue to be addressed on a local level too. But it actually has gotten better. And the seventh is respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. I think that's something that's very important. And all of these things actually tie together, especially the seventh one. I think that encompasses much of the above. Okay.
Thank you, Art. That was very thoughtful. Now I'm actually going to turn the screen over to Dave Howell, who is going to share his thoughts that he'd also shared with the outdoor folks this morning.
So, good morning. Judy, can you hear me?
Very well, loud and clear.
That's good. I just thought I would check in there. So I was the first person who spoke outside today, and I didn't know what anybody else was going to talk about, or indeed exactly what Lyndon had requested of us. I just talked about what seemed to me the future and changes of the church here. Other people talked about more private kinds of things, so that worked out quite well. For me, this church is the people here. I look forward to seeing them. I do much better face-to-face than I do virtual face-to-face. But this opens up another new possibility for me and another new possibility for us, this kind of virtual communication. And that the new normal is not going to be the same as the old normal means that there's new ways in which we can do things. And whether something is virtual or live does make a difference, it seems to me, on how people behave. I think we're a smart group of people. I think we can investigate, experiment with, try out new ways of having this congregation as a group of people who are tied to each other in important ways. Art, I think that's your name. I think I got that right. I'm a philosopher by trade, and the theological kind of stuff I'd like to talk about from time to time, but it's not why I come here. I come here for that immediate kind of personal contact with Linda, and the people who are here. But I look forward to how we can make ourselves different and use what we have been forced to do in this year as an opportunity to use virtual communication and Zoom sessions and so on as something which really does add to rather than is in competition with, or that we do badly, or all other kinds of negative sorts of things. I think we're smart, and I think Carol is smart, and I think we can figure out how to use the new normal, whatever it turns out to be, in a way that is to our advantage. And I certainly hope so, because I would miss this community if I didn't have it to go to. I also was kind of surprised at people talking about how much COVID changed their personal lives. It didn't really change mine very much at all. I missed the basketball season and the concert season, but I never went out to restaurants or bars. And I pretty much saw the people I was seeing before right on through. That just says something about how stupid or something I am, I suppose. But one of the things that would be interesting to talk about is how differently this has affected us. And then we will come out of it as different kinds of people who can connect with each other in different kinds of ways. And for me, that's an important part of what the church is. So enough conversation to be continued.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear your thoughts on that. I asked some other people during the outdoor services to give their little bits, and I have jotted down some notes about what they said. And Yetta Jager had some things to say that actually echo some of what Dave was just saying. She said, some kind of obvious things. She's got the first grandchild on the way, so she's really looking forward to seeing her first grandchild. But she also said she thought it was, in a way, good to have kind of a timeout. She's, to be able to, for those of us who are either retired or who've been able to work from home, to have a time out and then to just kind of back away from the busyness of lives. She also thought that that the electronic communications, virtual communications, Zoom, Skype, and so on, actually enhanced abilities to connect with family that really had not been used, as certainly not as much as they're being used now. So she thought that was actually a good thing. It was an opportunity to learn some new ways of making contact with people. Sherry Boudry said that, not surprisingly, she's looking forward to being able to get rid of wearing a mask, although she's still hesitant because she was concerned that until children really get vaccinated more thoroughly, that she's concerned about keeping the kids safe. And she was looking forward to being, as I think most of us are, being with other people to share joy and hugs. And she's has missed the joy of retired life where she travels and stays, goes to places and stays in hotels, and she just doesn't. She's looking forward to being able to get ready and go back to doing those kinds of things. So I think there are a lot of commonalities, and I think people, as time goes on, we can, as I said, conversations to continue along these lines. Because I think, I feel like I'm not quite the same person that I was at the beginning of 2020.
Amen.
I mean, I suppose that happens in any case, but it was really exacerbated by this particular year. And with respect to our wishes for the future, I'm very glad that we have now recent guidelines that are going to, I think, really make things more accessible to us to do in the future, sooner rather than later. So that takes us down to about coffee hour time. And so as our service closes and we extinguish the chalice, here are some words from Marjorie Newland Leeming. Let us go forth into the world through a door of hope for the future, remembering these words from Martin Luther. Even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree. So may it be with us. Go in peace. Thank you.